Today we are going to discuss the fourth type of the access control mechanism, which is the attribute-based access control, also called the ABAC. Um, the ABAC approach is the advanced one as compared to the other types of the access control approaches that we have discussed so far in these lectures, such as DAC, the discretionary access control, MAC, mandatory access control, and then we also discuss the role-based access control. In the attribute-based access control, which is actually based on the attributes. So far we have seen subjects and objects, whereas there is an additional element in the ABAC which uses the basically the attributes of the such as resource attributes, user attributes, environmental attributes to implement the access control. So it's an authorization model that evaluates attributes or characteristics rather than the roles, as we saw that there are roles in the RBAC, the role-based access control. To basically, these attributes are used to determine the access. The purpose is to protect objects such as data, network devices, IT resources from unauthorized access, unauthorized users or actions. So if we compare it with the other access control approaches, you will see that the ACLs, the access matrices of the DAC, and the roles in RBAC, the other two approaches, are somewhat similar, or we can call them special cases of the ABAC or the attribute-based access control in terms of the attributes that we can use. For example, user attributes could be name, role, position, clearance levels as used in MSc. Resource attributes is a creation date, resource owner, what's the sensitivity level. Environmental attributes are time, location, and the threat level. So we saw that those access control matrices and the ACLs work on the attribute of identity. Basically, owner creates something and then assigns permission in DAC. In role base, it works on the attribute of the role. That what's the role basically of the object and subject, and in that sense, it could determine the access. The key difference of ABAC is the concept of the policies that express a complex rule set which can evaluate many different attributes. So basically, we can formulate policies which can the ability to determine different types of attributes and then include them in the testing condition. Testing statements is the core of the ABAC. While it's possible to achieve the attribute-based objectives using the access matrices or roles, demonstrating the access control requirement compliance, which sometimes become much more complex. Although it's possible by using the roles and the other types, but this provides much more efficient way to check the conditions and attributes. So therefore, it's more flexible. Another problem with the ACLs and the other approach is that it's not easy to identify that which attributes and sources would be included in those type of approaches and how to update them. So therefore, ABAC avoids the need of these capabilities, this pairing, which direct assignments in the DAC between the subjects or objects, or through the intermediate layer, which was the case in the RBAC, to assign mappings between the requesters, their roles, and the resources. ABAC, what happens is when a subject requests the access, the ABAC verification system will make an access control decision based on the assigned attributes of the requester, and the assigned attributes of the objects, assigned attribute, and there might be some of the environmental conditions and other set policies in place. So under these arrangements, where all these types of attributes are tested, policies can be created without any direct reference to the multitude of users and objects, and so the direct access could be provided through a policy which tests the attributes during the runtime. So that's the main benefit of the attribute-based access control over the other two approaches that we have discussed earlier. So it's a form of logical access control. It's used to enforce the access policies for the decision based on the attributes of the system. So these attributes could be the subject's attribute or the user attributes, as we discussed, the name, role, and position. The subject is the user requesting access to a resource to perform an action. Subject attributes in a user profile include name, role, position, clearance, job, memberships, department, organizational memberships, and so on. Resource attributes such as the creation date resource in such application, file server, API, which the subjects want to access. So this is equivalent to the objects of the DSE or other resources which needs to be protected. These resource attributes are all identifying characteristics like a file creation date, its honor, file name and type, date sensitivity, and so on. So these are some of the resource attributes. These type of attributes are generally present, are identifiable. Here we have mentioned them explicitly. But the environmental attributes are quite unique to this type of approach. The environment is a broader context of each access request. All environmental attributes speak to the contextual factor, such as the time, location, subject device, communication protocol, encryption strength, and other type of patterns could be used as attributes. Okay, so let's see how the process typically works. Step one, an access request is made, and the ABC scans the attribute to determine whether they match the existing policies, as I discussed on the previous slides, how the policies are formulated and how the attributes are matched in the real time. If the attributes match a policy, then the system allows access to the users. So here the attributes are the characteristics or value of a component involved in the access. So these attributes are analyzed to provide access. For example, let's say that the following policy is in place. If the subject is in a communication job role, they should have read and edit access to the media strategies, like whatever media is posted on the company's website, or whichever media or communications are communicated to the third parties. So they should have the read and edit access. So whenever access request happens, the attribute-based system will analyze the attribute values for the match with the established policies. For example, it will match the subject job role is in the communications department, subject's business unit is marketing, action is edit, resource type is the media strategy document, and the resource business unit is the marketing. So basically, if all these attributes are matched, then based on that, the access will be granted. So this is one more explanation of this, that user attributes, subject attributes, the environmental attributes, objects are resource attributes. They all are input the authorization engine over there. So the policy will give the permit decisions or deny decisions based on the felt condition, or there could be ACLs, and then based on that it would give the permit or the deny decision based on all these three attributes. Of course, for any type of request which comes into the system. So here is another example of the Another example of this type of access, here we say that this is from the health system. You can identify, like, from a students, there would be student ID grades and all that stuff. So this example is from the health system, where we see that that it's the subject type is either nurse, lab technician, employee, or patient. Objects are the resources, are lab procedure, compensation, health records. Action types which are permitted over these objects are view, change, or request. Rank, employee rank could be senior or junior. It's basically, you can think of them as the roles. Basically, seniors will have their own roles, are associated subjects and objects and their policies. Then working hours define first shift, second shift, on call. Status could be registered, the approved, pending, or rejected. Types, the patient type, follow up. Status, full, care is the long term. So basically, these are some of the attributes which could be used for so these are the attributes for the lab procedure. The health record is full, compensation long term, and so on. So accordingly, for each type of subjects, the attributes are identified over there, and then there could be additional attributes based on the date and time, like the full health records should be permitted if access is being made from within the health facilities premises, and so on. So these are further more additional attributes could be added to these type of scenarios. So overall, it can define authorization that express conditions on properties, both the resource and the subjects and environment. Its strength is its flexibility and expressive power. So basically, it's like the object-oriented paradigm in the programming. So basically, you can define classes, objects, and then their attributes. So it's much more flexible that's why object-oriented programming is much more preferred as compared to simple functional programming, where this functions, objects contain both the attributes and the actions which could be carried out on those properties or the objects. So main obstacle to adoption real-time system has been concern about the performance impact of evaluating predicates. So predicates in this sense are the conditions, the ACLs. You saw that in the deck we just evaluate those access matrices and conditions. Similarly, the role based, these are just roles. If it's the person is within the role, then all the permission apply over there. Here, we need to evaluate all these. The search engine basically need to evaluate all these predicates in the real time. So the web services have been pioneering technologies through the use of the extensible access control markup language. So these predicates could be expressed in much easier way by using the XAML markup language, which provides it's a complete model, it's a complete language which could be used to express all those predicates. And the XAML model employs elements such as rules, policies, combining with algorithm attributes and the environmental condition obligations. So its reference architecture include functions, decision points, enforcement points, administration points, and information points to control the access. So these are four type of the functions which are used to control access. XAML, so you will study much more about that in CNIT 271, but here at this point it's sufficient to know that those predicates could be expressed by using the framework which is called the extensible access control markup language. And then there is also a similar type of framework which could be used to express these type of conditions, which are also called the next generation access control standard. So that it's an advanced version of the XAML, the next generation access control standard. There's a considerable interest in applying this model to the cloud. Why? Because the main benefit of attribute-based access control is that it avoids the need for capabilities such as the some action pair or object pair to be directly assigned to the user, to the subjects, or to the roles. So to the subjects in DSC, to the roles in role-based control, before the request is made. So basically, a priori or advance binding or as it is the required. So basically, we do this binding by using the access matrix in DAC. And we use this binding by using the two tables that I showed you yesterday, where we saw that there was one table where roles were being allowed to access particular type of actually there was association between the roles and the permissions, and then those in the second table we saw that the users were being assigned to those roles. So that binding needs to be done in advance. So that's why it's an advanced, but here in ABAC the advanced binding is not required. Instead, when a subject requests the access, the ABAC engine can make an access control decision based on the assigned attributes of the requester, the requester, the subject, the assigned attribute of the object, and the pertinent environmental conditions at that time, and also a set of policies that are specified in terms of those attributes and condition. So all these arrangements together can be created and managed without direct reference to multitude of user and objects, and user and object provision can be done without reference to the policy. So that's the one main benefit of these type of. That's why there is a considerable interest in applying these models to the cloud services. So that's one big benefit, because in the traditional system, logical access control system, the traditional ones have been based primarily on the identity of a subject requesting execution of an operation upon an object such as file. So for example, in the role base, the DSC, where access to an object has been individually granted to a locally identified subject, or when the access to object has been granted to roles based on the membership. So these type of bindings are the a priori approaches are actually cumbersome to manage. And therefore, the ABAC actually helps a lot in to facilitate this type of to remove to avoid the burden of this advanced binding, and actually define the policies which do not take into the consideration the subjects. And here are the formal definitions of those concepts. We are looking at the subject attributes, and environmental attributes. Overall, the ABAC could be defined as a mechanism which grants access to services based on the attribute possessed by the requester, or we can also say that those are attributes value with the associated with the users determine the association of the permissions with that user. Or we can also say that it's an access control method where the subject requests to perform operations on objects are granted or denied based on an assigned attributes of the subject, assigned attributes of the object, environmental conditions, and set of policies that are specified in terms of those attributes. So these attributes are the characteristics. For example, subject attributes. A subject is an active entity that causes information to flow among objects obtained in the system state. Attributes define the identity and characteristics of the object. Attributes are object or resources is a passive information system related entity containing or receiving information. Objects have attributes that can be leveraged to make access control decisions. The environmental attributes describe the operational, technical, and even situational environment or context in which the information access occurs. These attributes have so far been largely ignored in most access control policies, and ABAC actually takes into account the environmental conditions. So these are basically these are independent. Environmental conditions are independent of the subjects or object and may include current time, day of the weeks, location of the user, or the current threat level as well. So these are the some of the definitions of environmental attributes. The ABAC relies on the assignments attribute to subjects and object and development of policies that contain access that contains the access rule. Each object within the system must be assigned specific object attributes and then characterize the subject accordingly. The policy is defined based on that mechanism. So ABAC is distinguishable because it controls access to objects by evaluating rules against the attribute of entities, operations, and environment pertinent to that request. It also relies upon the evaluation of attributes of the subject, attributes of the object, and formal relationships. So basically, relationship of the access rules, and these systems are also capable of enforcing the ACLs, the access matrices of DAC, the RBAC and role based and MAC based concepts. And then there is additionally these allows unlimited number of attributes to be combined to satisfy any type of the access control. So therefore, these are some of the benefits. It provides the flexible policy making. The flexibility is one of the benefit of this type of approach. Basically, it all depends on the attributes. So once we say the unlimited number of attributes, as the case in the last number, so it depends on the ability of the system administrators and the capacity to identify, to account for as many as attributes possible in the expressible attributes, which could be expressed in XML or the any access control language, and also the related predicates could be defined for those type of attributes as well. So it allows for the much more versatile attributes to be associated to the subjects, to the objects, and the to the environment as well. So whenever a subject joins the organization, they are assigned a set of subject attributes. Whenever the object is created, those attributes are assigned, and then the location attributes are also determined based on that. So but there is no limit on the number of attributes which could be assigned, but it all depends on the excuse me, on the expressibility of on the identification and expressibility of those attributes in the system. ABAC is also compatible with the new users. The system admins can create policies allowing new subjects to access new resources, as long as the subjects are assigned to the attributes to access those objects. So basically, the policies are defined. Through the use of attributes, the ABAC lets the security admins to control many situational variables, such as securing access on a fine-grained basis. So it's provided because of the attributes. For example, HR team may always have access to sensitive employee information such as payroll data and personally identifiable information. With ABAC, admins can implement smart access restrictions that account for context. For example, HR employees may only have access to this information at certain times for only staff that is relevant to the branch office. So basically, the admins will have all access, and then the other users, branch users, will have only access to the information which is related to their branches only. Another example is consider a document residing in a directory with a file management system. The document has a title, an author, a date of creation, and the date of the last edit. All object attributes that are determined by the creator, author, or editor of the documents will basically can be used for that object. Additional attributes could be assigned by the administrator, such as intellectual property rights, export control classification, security classifications. So this procedure where some attributes are assigned by the other, some attributes are assigned by the owning organizations. In each case, whenever a new document is created or modified, these attributes must be captured. So once the attributes are captured, the specific attributes are then they can be used in the policy making for the ABAC implementation.